folks, I want you to close your eyes for a second. Imagine the sound of a gavel banging down in the people's house. Bang. That sound. It usually means a law is passed or order is called, but this week, that gavel wasn't calling for order. It was the sound of a door slamming shut on accountability. You saw the headlines, you saw the numbers scrolling across the bottom of your TV screen. 237 to 140, that's the tally. That's the count that let Donald Trump off the hook again. My friend Al Green from Texas, he stood up, he put a resolution on the floor to impeach the current president. And let's be clear about why we aren't talking about policy differences. We aren't talking about tax rates. We're talking about a president of the United States who, according to this resolution, is threatening lawmakers with execution on social media, threatening judges. And what did the House do? Did they hold a hearing? Did they look at the evidence? No, they tabled it. They shelved it. They said, move along. Nothing to see here. It makes you angry, doesn't it? It makes me angry because I know what that office represents. I sat behind that resolute desk. I know the weight of it. And to see it treated like a reality TV show where the rules don't apply, it breaks my heart. But before we go further, I need to ask you something. If you believe, like I do, that this nation deserves leaders who respect the rule of law, then I need you with us. Click that subscribe button right now. Join us, become a member of this channel. We are in a fight for the soul of this nation. And I can't do it without you. Now back to that vote, it wasn't just Republicans. There were 47 Democrats who voted present. They didn't say yes, they didn't say no. They stood on the sidelines, and that tells you everything you need to know about how complicated and how dangerous this moment really is. Let's talk about fear. Not the kind you get from a spooky movie, but the real gnawing fear that keeps you up at night. I talk to people all over this country, in Scranton and Detroit and Atlanta, and they tell me they're scared. They aren't scared of the economy or the weather. They're scared because they see a president acting like a king and a Congress that's too paralyzed to stop him. When you have a leader suggesting that generals or members of Congress should be executed for treason just because they disagree with him, folks, that is not American. That is something else entirely. And that's why this vote hurts so much. It sends a message to every bully in every schoolyard and every dictator around the world. You can do whatever you want and nobody is going to stop you. I look at Al Green standing there on the House floor. You might not agree with everything Al says. Heck, even folks in our own party don't always agree on the tactics, but you can't deny his courage. He saw something wrong and he pointed at it. He said, this is not right. But instead of a debate, we got silence. We got a procedural maneuver to kill the conversation. Think about what this does to us. When accountability dies, democracy starts to wither. It's like a garden. If you don't tend to it, the weeds take over, and right now, the weeds are choking out the flowers. We have a situation where the Justice Department is seeing cases thrown out where norms are being shredded like old paper, and the one body that the founders, Washington, Jefferson, Madison, gave the power to check the president, that body just decided to look the other way. I've spent my life in public service. I've seen disagreements. I've seen heated arguments. But I have never seen a time where we are so close to losing the basic guardrails of our republic. But here's the thing about Americans. We don't give up. We don't just roll over. We get back up, and in the next part of the story, we're going to look at exactly why this is happening and what you and me can do about it, because this isn't over, not by a long shot. You know, one of the hardest things to do in life is to stand up to your friends. It's easy to stand up to your enemies, but when you look around the room and see people you know, people you've worked with, and they aren't standing with you, that hurts. I want to talk to you about those 47 Democrats who voted present. Now, I know a lot of these folks, they are good people. They care about this country, but they made a calculation. They looked at the political map, they looked at the polls, and they decided that now wasn't the right time. They listened to leadership who said, let's not rock the boat, let's focus on the election, let's not give the other side ammunition. I get it. I've been in this game a long time. I know how the sausage is made in Washington. There's always a strategy, there's always a reason to wait. But here's the deal, folks. While we are waiting for the perfect moment, the damage is being done right now. While we are strategizing, the current president is taking a victory lap. You saw him. He didn't look chastised. He didn't look humbled. He looked at that vote where the House refused to even debate his conduct, and he took it as a green light. He sees it as permission. And that is what keeps me up at night. It's not just about one man in the White House. It's about what we are teaching our kids. Imagine telling your son or daughter that if they break the rules, if they bully someone, if they threaten people, it's okay. As long as the people in charge are too afraid of an argument. To stop them, we are teaching a generation that power is the only thing that matters. That if you have enough power, the rules don't apply to you, and that is a dangerous, dangerous lesson. When I see those numbers 27 to 47 to 40 Hungary, I don't just see a legislative defeat. I see a failure of nerve. I see a capital that has forgotten its job isn't just to pass budgets and name post offices. Its job is to protect the Constitution. And folks, the Constitution is not a suggestion. It's the law of the land. And right now it feels like it's being treated like a piece of paper you can just toss in the recycling bin when it gets inconvenient. Let's get down to brass tacks about what exactly was in that resolution. We aren't talking about jaywalking here. We are talking about unpaid parking tickets. The resolution brought up by Congressman Green was about rhetoric that puts lives in danger. We are living in a time where the President of the United States, the man who is supposed to be the commander-in-chief for all Americans, is out there using words like treason to describe public servants. Do you know what the penalty for treason is? It's death. That is not a word you throw around lightly. That is not a word you use to describe a general who served his country for 40 years, or a congresswoman who disagrees with your tax plan. But we've become numb to it, haven't we? Be honest. When you saw the headline, did you shrug? Did you think, oh, just another day in Washington? That numbness is the enemy. That numbness is how democracies die. We start accepting the unacceptable. We start thinking it's normal for a leader to talk like a mob boss. I remember when I was in the Senate, we fought like cats and dogs. I had arguments with guys like Bob Dole and John McCain that would peel the paint off the walls, but at the end of the day, we respected the institutions. We never ever questioned the other person's right to exist or suggested they were enemies of the state just because we disagreed. We have lost that. And the current administration is pouring gasoline on the fire every single day. They want you to be exhausted. They want you to be so tired of the noise, so tired of the fighting that you just tune out. They want you to say they're all the same. Let them do what they want. But we are not all the same. There is a difference between believing in the rule of law and believing you are above the law. There is a difference between public service and self-service. And every time the House votes to look away, every time they table a resolution, instead of facing it head on, they are telling the president that he can keep pouring that gasoline. They are telling him that the fire he's starting isn't big enough yet for them to care. Well, I care. And I know you care, and We have to stop this fire before it burns down the whole house. You know, I saw something after that vote that really stuck in my craw. I saw the celebrations. I saw the tweets and the statements coming out of the White House and from the folks who blocked this resolution. They were spiking the football. They were acting like they just won the Super Bowl. They called it a victory. But you have to ask yourself, what exactly did they win? Did they win better health care for your family? Did they win a victory for lower prices at the gas pump? Did they win a battle to make your streets safer? No, they won a victory for impunity. They went around for the idea that the president is above the law. And folks, that is not a win for America. That is a loss for every single one of us who believes in fair play. It reminds me of something my dad used to say at the dinner table. He'd say, Joey, a man's character isn't measured by how he acts. When everyone is watching, it's measured by what he thinks he can get away with. Right now, we have an administration that thinks it can get away with anything. And the tragedy of this week, the tragedy of that 237 to 140 vote, is that the House of Representatives just proved them right. They looked at the behavior, they looked at the threats, and they blinked. And I want to speak directly to the frustration I know many of you are feeling. I hear it, I see it. You look at the Democratic leadership, good people like Hakeem, Jeffries, trying to steer the ship, trying to keep the caucus together. And then you see nearly 50 Democrats voting present. They didn't vote yes, they didn't vote no, they just existed. It makes you want to scream at the TV, doesn't it? You send people to Washington to fight for you. You send them there to stand up for what's right, not to check the wind direction before they cast a vote. When you see your representatives playing it safe while the president plays fast and loose with the Constitution, it makes you feel like the system is broken. Like the fix is in, and that anger, it's justified. You have a right to be angry because while they're playing 4D chess with political strategy, real people are worried about the future of this country. Real people are wondering if the guardrails are gone for good. Let's look down the road a bit, because that's what a president is supposed to do. Not just look at today, but look at tomorrow. Look at what's coming around the bend. When you refuse to hold a leader accountable for their actions, you aren't just letting them off the hook for yesterday. You are writing them a permission slip for tomorrow. You are telling them, go ahead, push a little harder, go a little further, we won't stop you. That is the fear that is gripping so many people right now. It's not just about what Donald Trump has done. It's about what he will do next now that he knows the House won't touch him. If threatening officials isn't a red line, where is the line? Is there a line, or have we just erased it? We are walking down a slippery slope, folks, and at the bottom of that slope is a place where the president isn't a servant of the people, but a ruler over them. A place where the Justice Department is just a personal law firm for the man in the Oval Office. A place where critics are enemies, and loyalty is more important than the law. I don't want to live in that country, and I know you don't either. That's not the America we grew up in. That's not the America we want to leave to our kids and grandkids. I think about the rest of the world watching us right now. Our allies, our friends in Europe and Asia, they are looking at us and they are scratching their heads. They used to look to America as the beacon, the standard. They looked at us and said, that is how a democracy works. That is how you balance power. Now they look at us and they worry. They see a superpower that is losing its way. They see a Congress that is too timid to act and a president who is too reckless to care. But I'm not telling you this to make you give up. I'm telling you this because we need to wake up. We need to realize that the cavalry isn't coming to save us. The politicians in Washington, even the ones on our side, they get caught up in the machinery, they get cautious. It's up to us to remind them who they work for. It's up to us to say, enough. We cannot accept a present vote when the future of the republic is on the line. We need courage. And if we can't find it in the halls of Congress, we have to find it in ourselves. Here's the deal, and I want you to really hear me on this one. While all this drama is playing out on the floor of the House, while politicians are counting votes and covering their backsides, life is going on for you, and it's not getting any easier. I sit here in Delaware, and I think about the kitchen tables I grew up around. I think about the conversations happening right now in your house. You're worried about the price of groceries. You're worried about whether your health care covers that new prescription. You're worried about your kids, schools. And then you turn on the news, and what do you see? You see a circus. You see a government that is completely consumed by the chaos of one man. That's the hidden cost of what happened with this vote. When the House refuses to deal with the president's conduct, when they just shove it under the rug, the chaos doesn't go away. It gets worse. It sucks all the oxygen out of the room. Instead of passing bills to lower your costs, instead of fixing our crumbling bridges, Washington is stuck in this endless loop of defending the indefensible. The president tweets a threat. The news cycle explodes, Congress hides, and the real work, the work of the people, gets left behind. It's a distraction, and it's a dangerous one, because as long as we are all focused on the latest outrage, we are talking about the fact that the rich are getting richer and the middle class is getting squeezed. This administration loves the noise. They thrive on it. If everyone is fighting, if everyone is angry, nobody notices that the machinery of government is being taken apart bolt by bolt. And that's why that vote to table the impeachment resolution makes me so angry. It wasn't just a vote to protect Donald Trump. It was a vote to keep the circus going. It was a vote to keep the distraction alive. They had a chance to say stop. They had a chance to say let's get back to sanity. But they didn't. They chose the noise. And folks, you deserve a government that is boringly effective, not one that is dangerously entertaining. You deserve leaders who wake up thinking about your paycheck, not their own political survival. I want to talk a little more about those 47 Democrats who voted present. And I say this with respect because I know the pressure they are under. But I also say it with a heavy heart. In life, you don't get to vote present when you see something wrong happening on your block. You don't get to say, I'm just going to stand here and not take a side when your child asks you a hard question about right and wrong. You don't get to say, I'll get back to you after the midterms. You have to choose. You have to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. My dad used to tell me, Joey, silence is complicity. If you see a bully and you say nothing, you aren't neutral. You're helping the bully. By voting present, by refusing to even debate the resolution, those members of Congress were hoping to make the problem disappear. They were hoping to avoid a tough fight, but you can't save democracy by avoiding. You can't protect the Constitution by staying on the sidelines. We are in a battle for the soul of this nation. I've said it before, and I will say it until I can't speak anymore. This isn't about politics. It's not about red states and blue states. It's about who we are. Are we a nation of laws? Or are we a nation of men? When the House of Representatives, the People's House, decides that it is too inconvenient to hold the president accountable for threatening the lives of public servants, they are answering that question. And they are giving the wrong answer. They're saying that the man is more important than the law. And that scares me. It should scare you. Because if the law doesn't matter for the president, eventually it won't matter for anyone. We are watching the foundation crack, and instead of fixing it, our leaders are putting up wallpaper and hoping we don't notice. But we do notice, we see it. And we know that we are better than this. America is better than a country where fear dictates our votes. We are better than a country where a president can rule by threat. We just need to remember who we are. I want to ask you to imagine a different kind of day in Washington. I want you to picture a Congress that doesn't look like a crime scene investigation, but looks like a job site. Imagine a president who wakes up in the morning, grabs his coffee, and instead of checking his social media to see who he can threaten, he checks the economic reports to see how he can help you. Imagine a leader who understands that the judges and the generals and the members of Congress aren't his enemies, his co-workers. They are part of the same team, Team America. We used to have that. It wasn't perfect. We argued, we fought, but we didn't have to worry that the man at the top was going to burn the building down if he didn't get his way. This isn't a fantasy, folks. This is how it's supposed to work. You deserve a government where accountability isn't a dirty word. You deserve a Justice Department that follows the facts, not the polls. And you deserve a Congress that, when faced with a president who crosses the line, stands up on its hind legs and says, not on our watch. The vote we saw this week, that 237 to 140, it tells us that we are drifting away from that standard. It tells us that we've lowered the bar so much that we're tripping over it. But I refuse to believe that this is the new normal. I refuse to believe that the American people are okay with a government that runs on fear. I know you. I know the heart of this country. You want fairness, you want decency, you want a fair shot for your family, a fair shake from your leaders. We can get back there, but it requires us to stop accepting the unacceptable. It requires us to look at the chaos and say we can do better, because we are better. So where do we go from here? The gavel has banged. The resolution is shelved. The pundits are moving on to the next story, but we can't move on. We can't let this slide. We are at a crossroads, you and I. We can decide that this is just how it is now. The presidents are kings. Laws are optional, or we can decide that the spirit of America, the spirit that wrote the Constitution, the spirit that stormed the beaches of Normandy, the spirit that marched across the bridge in Selma, is still alive. I believe it is alive. I believe it's in you. They want you to feel powerless. They want you to look at those vote tallies and give up. But let me tell you something I learned in a lifetime of service. The only power they have is the power you give them when you speak up, when you refuse to be cynical, when you demand better. Things change. We have to be the guardrails now. We have to be the ones who say no more. I need you in this fight. I need you to stay engaged, stay informed, and stay hopeful. Don't let the darkness win. Keep the faith. If you believe that America deserves better than fear and chaos, do me a favor right now. Hit that like button to show the world where you stand. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you think Congress should have done. And please subscribe and become a member of this channel. We are building a community here, a community of folks who haven't given up on the soul of this nation. I'm Joe Biden, and I'm telling you, our best days are still ahead of us. If we have the courage to reach for them, God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.